I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly because you tread on my dreams. W. B. Yeats. Xanthia Plath. I limped into the graveyard, clutching my broken arm with the other hand. Blood mixed in the rain trailed down from my shoulder to my elbow, down my wrists, making its way to my fingers that clutched the small bouquet of forget-me-not flowers. Every flower of the bouquet was crushed and marred with bloodstains. The blue ribbon that once tied the flowers together was long lost. The white gown, soaked by the downpour, hugged my body as if it sought to suffocate me. Ink scarlet, its hem absorbed the black tint of the ground as it glissaded over the sharp blades of overgrown grass. Today was my mother's 23rd death anniversary and my 23rd birthday. I forced another step on the muddy grounds of the graveyard with my sprained leg. A thick curtain of rain obscured my already blurry vision. Streaks of rain trailed down my cracked glasses that hung loosely on my nose. Panting and stifling my moans, I dragged myself closer and closer to my mother's grave. Perhaps it was the tears in my eyes, or perhaps it was the rainwater tracing its way down my face. The only sensation that wasn't a struggle was feeling the coldness of the rain being absorbed against my feverish skin. My ribs hurt with every breath. No matter how much of a struggle it is to breathe, you never stop breathing. Because you know the struggles are only temporary. What's permanent is life that death has not yet kissed. My mother's words echoed in my head. I gritted my teeth, taking a deep breath even when it hurt. Tears stung into my eyes as I gulped down the trembling lump clogging my throat. I found my mother's gravestone. Freya Plath. And below her name carved on the white marble gravestone was the epitaph, Forget-me-not. I didn't need much effort as I sank to my bruised knees and offered the blood-stained flowers to my mother's memory. I bowed until my nose touched the ground and finally broke into tears. The flood of emotions that had sustained me through the harrowing journey finally snapped. I had never met my mother when she was alive, but now she lived through me. And through her diaries, she had come alive to me. My heart filled with an unfathomable warmth and the utmost respect when I thought of her. I knew her closer than any daughter would have ever known their mother. I knew her like a friend, like a secret keeper, like an equal. Through her words, I knew her heart, and now it feels as though my heart had been replaced by hers, filled with her smiles and laughter that I never got to see or hear. Yet I felt them all so closely, it hurt. I fell in love with everything this woman was and everything she could have become only if the Alpha's eyes didn't fall on her. My mother was an Omega, just like me. It was a world of cruel hierarchy, where the Alpha commands over all the dreams of everyone in the pack. Under his command, an Omega wasn't allowed to dream of anything greater than their rank granted. We dwelled at the bottom of the food chain. Our value was confined and limited to serving the ones who held the higher ranks. But my mother dared to dream. She dared to have wings to fly high, and higher were her ambitions. So high it seemed impossible for an Omega to achieve in this world of power, ranks, and politics. Her wings that I broke by coming to life. Because after that, my mother's eyes were too lifeless to dream anymore. So I replaced my eyes with hers, transplanted her dreams into the sole reason for my existence. And now, if I am not her dreams, her words, her ideals, I don't know who I am. They say you can't miss a person you've never met, but I miss every second of my life as I imagine how my life would have been if she were still alive. Maybe my bones would have broken less, perhaps I would have lesser scars. Perhaps then I wouldn't be so lonely. Perhaps I'd know what love felt like. But my mother died during the delivery, and so the illegitimate daughter of Alpha Vladimir Virgo was born of an extramarital affair. Obviously, everyone in the palace hated me. Maybe things would have been different if I inherited my father's alpha genes. But I was grateful that I didn't. I'd rather have a strong mind and a warm heart than brute strength and a cold ego. More than anyone else, I was an eyesore for Luna Meesa Virgo. She couldn't tolerate the mere sight of me. She wanted to throw me out of the palace the moment I was born, but Alpha kept me in the palace until I turned 18, and then he asked me to leave. I shifted into a small house that my mother owned, which itself was an exceptional feat for an Omega, since most couldn't afford it. They lived in either the servant quarters or in the shabby slums. I didn't even know how badly those 18 years of my life had broken me. But after beginning an independent life in my mother's home, I started healing. My mother worked as a florist in the royal palace. She loved her job of cultivating flowers and medicinal plants. Her knowledge in herbology surpassed every book I've read so far. She wasn't just cultivating, but creating new varieties, new species. She mentioned it all in her journals, diaries and books, the legacy she left behind for me. Alpha now had an heir to the throne, 22-year-old Nikolai Virgo, the crown prince. And a legitimate daughter, 19 years old Natalia Virgo. Both of them were born with true alpha genes. I received monthly maintenance money from him, but I never used that money. Ever since I left the palace, I have worked to support myself and my studies. I didn't want anything to do with the royal family or its people. I had been preparing for the international medical entrance exams for years. After qualifying for that exam, I was planning to leave the pack for good. Or that's what I thought. The entrance exams were tomorrow. They knew, Mom. Luna knew how important this exam was for me. That is why they did this to me. I broke down into sobs. How do I write the exams with a broken hand? Xanthia, I left my apartment in the afternoon when the sun gently hid behind the mammatus clouds. I grew forget-me-nots the whole year for my mother's death anniversary. Picking some of the most vibrant flowers, I tied them in a blue ribbon. I put on the best formal decent gown I had and set off for the graveyard. I got down from the bus's stop before my actual stop because the roads ahead were out of bounds for the public. There was some inter-pack car drifting competition organized by Nikolai. I knew I had to hurry before the event began, so I decided to walk to the graveyard since it wasn't too far. The road was the fastest way, but maybe I shouldn't have taken the road. I had walked a few meters ahead on the road when I heard the roaring of engines and several cars zoomed past me at a speed that made them look like mere glowing lights flying by. One of those cars stopped at some distance and started driving in reverse. It was a brand new gray Supra. Lowering my gaze, I increased my pace. Want a lift, sis? Nikolai put his elbow on the window, patting his car. He drove the car slowly, matching my pace. You know, an Omega shouldn't be here at this hour. Alphas from all the packs will be here tonight. What if someone kidnaps you? Or does something worse? A shrill laughter came from the passenger seat. Come on, brother. They might just run their cars over her ugly face of hers. How could someone look at such an abomination and not want to crush it? Natalia sniggered, rolling the chewing gum across her mouth. Now. Leah. Don't be so harsh, or she'll start crying again. Like good old days, Nikolai stopped the car. They exchanged some glances, and Natalia and Nikolai stepped out of the car. Keeping my eyes low, I tensed up when they approached me. Clenching the forget-me-nots, I hid them in my gown's fabric. How rude of you. Ever since you left the palace, you didn't even come to visit us once. How ungrateful can a bitch get? Natalia hit my shoulder, and I stumbled back. Whoa. Calm down. It's been a while since we saw her. Go easy on her. Nikolai's gaze darkened as it ran over me. I dug my fingers into my flesh as I clenched my trembling fist. Going on a date, sis? I shuddered as his aura thickened. The threat behind his words held me in a chokehold. Restlessness built in my chest as I instantly shook my head. Then where are you going with flowers in your hand and dressed so prettily? You might not be living with us anymore, but you are, unfortunately, linked with the royal family. And if you were to stain our reputation by acting like a slut then as you brother, it'd be my responsibility to put you in your place. He growled, towering over me, and I cowered. I pressed my lips together, and I shook my head. I was going to visit my mother's grave. It's her death anniversary tea today, I stammered. There was a sudden shift in his darkening aura. Oh. It is indeed your birthday today. Happy birthday, sis. I flinched when Nikolai reached out to touch my shoulder. Oh, come on. We're family, sis. And until you were doing something that you shouldn't be doing, I would never hurt you. Okay. As a birthday gift, let me give you a ride to the graveyard. These roads will turn scary soon. Cars will run wild here. I don't want you to get hurt badly. Nikolai turned to Natalia. Leah, you can join Carl in his car, right? Natalia gave me a nasty smirk and nodded. Of course. Hop on, sis. He opened the car door for me. It's our Omega mother's death anniversary. Let me correct my mistake and drop you safely to the graveyard. I know a shortcut. Come on. Get in. It's a dangerous road ahead. Natalia scoffed with a menacing smirk crossing her face. I'll keep a watch from behind. Another car stopped, and Natalia got into it. Nothing they had ever done to me had ever led to anything good for me. I had been an eyesore, proof of Alpha's infidelity. So, Luna had always done everything she could to keep reminding me how illegitimate, unwanted and burdensome I truly was. She had taken every chance to hurt me in all the ways she could. Physically, mentally, emotionally. And Luna's biggest weapons to inflict all that pain on me had been Nikolai and Natalia. Get in, sis. Trust me, I am truly concerned about you, Nikolai yelled as several cars zoomed right across the road. Father will be upset if you get hurt or some random car hits you. Ever since you left the palace, we rarely meet. Let's catch up. I should have run the other way, but several cars stopped by. Boys and girls took out their head out of the window, laughing and giggling. Nikolai seized my hand in a bruising grip, and I yelped slightly. You don't plan to embarrass me before those insects, do you? He spoke through his gritted teeth. Be my good doll like you've always been and get in while I am still being nice, he hissed. Blinking back the mist in my eyes, I entered his car. The foreboding screamed at me to not enter his car, but he had left me no other option. Put on the seatbelt, Nikolai said with a dark smirk cutting through his face. I fumbled with the seatbelt, but put it on. In a matter of a few seconds, I was tightly clutching on the seatbelt, trying my best not to crush the flowers. The car was racing at its extreme limit. I looked at Nikolai, who seemed to be enjoying himself handling the steering wheel deftly, making his car drift on the road. The car turned in circles with the rest of the cars and there were moments almost every second that I thought the car was going to crash into the others. Nikolai laughed. I shut my eyes tightly. Sis. Open your eyes. I am going through all this trouble for you. Enjoy. Whoa! Natalia hooted, taking half her torso out of the car's window that drifted into circles right behind Nikolai's car. She shot fireworks into the sky and several other cars followed the suit. Soon, enormous flags of several packs fluttered in the car as their cars flew by. The rear wheels of almost all those cars were hidden in the fog created by the drifting tires on the road. Please slow down. The words trembled out of my lips. What? I couldn't hear you, sis. Say that louder. Nikolai mused as raced the car towards a steep curve. Covering my face with my hands, I shut my eyes tightly. He drifted the cars along the curve, and I was pressed against the seat. Let me out. I screamed, panting. Please, let me out. Nikolai gave me a hostile side look as he sped, tearing against the winds. With pleasure, sis. He smirked, unbuckling my seatbelt. The door opened on my side and before I could realize, he pushed me out of the speeding car. My right hand and left leg crashed against the road before I rolled and skidded on the black road. A sharp pain numbed my body before I completely blacked out for a few seconds from the impact. The road and cut through my skin like a blade until the world finally stopped spinning. I laid on the road for I don't know how long, but in the daze, I remember crawling towards the forget-me-nots when Natalia's car zoomed inches away from my fingers, crushing the flowers. Her laughter thinned as her car, and Nikolai's car drifted in circles all around me. Now and then, Nikolai's car would zoom right past me and I would try to avoid coming under the tires by rolling over. Please. Stop. I don't know if my words left my lips or not. My body was shivering badly. I am sorry. I am sorry. You should be sorry, Natalia spat. Sorry for being born. You should have died with your mother, bitch. No, Leah. Had she died, we wouldn't have such a great toy to play with. Let's play a little more. Let's see how well my car's brakes are. Stay where you are, sis. And pray the car doesn't drift over you, haha. I am going to do a small experiment. Everyone back off, Nikolai roared, and all the cars circling around me emptied the road around me. Nikolai reversed his car until he was almost out of my sight. Crawling to the forget-me-nots, I picked them up and then put on my cracked glasses. I had to get out of that place. The roar of the car's engine haunted the road as the headlight flashed right into my eyes, blinding me. Nikolai accelerated the car right towards me. My hand clutching the flowers fell limply to my side. My heart gave a painful throb, and I knew what raced towards me was my death. The car came closer and closer and screech. Xanthia, the engine gave out a majestic roar as an unknown car drifted right between me and Nikolai's car. An ugly screech of the tires against the asphalt left behind bold tire marks on the road. Then the car raced right at Nikolai's car. I gasped as my heart pounded horrifyingly at the sight. 2 other cars zoomed in, flanking Nikolai's car from the rear. The 3 cars trapping Nikolai's car decelerated until all the 4 cars came to a stop. The rev of their engines rattled me to my bones. The loud thunder cracked in the dark cloudy sky, snapping me out of my paralysis. I scrambled to my shaking legs. Limping, I tried to get away from all of them as far away as I could get. Natalia glared at me, but the crowd rushed towards the 4 cars. Using the other as a facade, I tore through the crowd. I hadn't even covered halfway to the graveyard when it started pouring down. By the time I was in the graveyard, my body was struggling to breathe. The numbness made the pain stand out even more. The cold of the rain caressed the pain throbbing in every inch of my body. As if through the rain, my mother was telling me to pull myself together and keep moving forward. It is in times like this the conviction of one's dreams is tested, and it is the turning point in one's life. What you decide at that moment either makes you or breaks you. My mother's words came to me, and I don't know how, but I pulled myself to the hospital. For the first time in my life, I used the money Alpha had been sending to get myself treated as best as the hospital could offer. The x-rays showed my ulna was broken and there was a hairline fracture in my wrist. It would take at least a week to heal with the best medication available. Alpha's healed faster, but Omega's had weaker healing abilities. There was no miracle I could perform to heal my hand, so while I stayed in the hospital that night, I practiced bubbling the circles with my left hand. During the exams we gave our answers by bubbling the one of 4 option bubbles which we believed to be the correct answer to the question. After the night's practice, I was able to bubble the circles. The next morning, I left the hospital and took a taxi back home with my plastered hand. The doctors said I should stay in bed for at least a week for proper healing. But I convinced them to prescribe me some best painkillers to get me through the day. I was working completely on painkillers. I just had to go through this day and the exam. After that, I could finally rest a little after 4 years of working tirelessly. The exams would start in the afternoon. I reached the center an hour before. The organizers of the exams asked about my hand, and all I told them was I met with an accident. It was a 3-hour exam with all objective-type questions. 1 out of the 4 options was right. 1 hour into the exams and I was struggling with my broken hand and left hand. 2 hours and I was halfway through the questions. The effect of the painkiller was fading away. I solved questions through the pain. The organizer entered my room and strolled to me. She leaned in and whispered, "Please come with me outside," she said. "Out? But I still have 1 hour. Please, just come out. You are not eligible to give this exam anymore." I froze at her words. At that moment, it felt like my entire world had come crashing down. What? But why? I filled everything. "Please, just come out with me. Don't disturb the other candidates." I bit back my tears. "I will. Please, just let me complete this exam. This really means everything to me. Please. I am sorry, but we have direct orders from Luna. His Highness, the Crown Prince, is here to take you. We are extremely sorry, but there's nothing we can do." My heart dropped as soon as I heard Nikolai was there. Please. I begged, gulping down the tightness building in my throat. "Just half an hour. I am begging you. Please." My heart thundered in my chest as if it would break all my ribs. She gave me an apologetic look. "What's taking so long?" Nikolai stormed into the room. Paralyzed, I widened my eyes. Tears welled up in my eyes and my mouth dried up. My stomach twisted and dropped with every step he took. He stopped near my table and winced at the question paper and answer sheet. He smirked as he leaned on the table and whispered, "Were you preparing to run away from the pack again, sis? You found a legal way this time, didn't you? Please. Please don't take this away from me," I gasped, as tears trailed down my frozen eyes. "Please. I'll do everything you say, just let me." "Ah." He grabbed my upper arm and, with brute strength, pulled me to my feet. "I am extremely sorry for disturbing you guys. As you can see, my sister is hurt and we are extremely worried about her well-being. That is why my mother asked me to get her back to the palace. My naive sister doesn't know what's good for her and what's not. I apologize for the disturbance she caused. I struggled to free myself from him when he yanked me closer, whispering against my ear, "Stop. Or I will break every bone in your body. Please. I am sorry. I promise I will do better." Even though I knew it was useless, I tried to talk to him as he dragged me through the empty hallways of the college and threw me in his car. I pressed my hand against the glass as he slammed the door on my face. "Please, Nikolai. Please, just half an hour. Just give me half an hour. I promise I will come with you wherever you want." I wasn't begging, I was desperate. He got in the driver's seat and I clutched his hand before he could start the car. "Please, Nikolai. Please, just once. I have never asked for anything. Just once, give me a little time. Let me complete my exams. Please." I bowed in front of him. "Breaking your hand wasn't enough. Should have broken your legs as well. Ugh. But mother said not to hurt you today." He hit the steering wheel. Gritting his teeth, he grabbed my cheeks. "Don't you understand, sis? You are not even allowed to breathe if we don't approve of it. You thought you could give this exam without us noticing?" I yelped as he grabbed my hair. Pain throbbed through my head. "Don't you remember your promise? You said you would be my obedient doll. What's with this defiance? I am already fucking frustrated. Don't get on my nerves anymore. I came all the way here to pick you. You don't appreciate it even a bit, do you?" He left my hair with a jerk. I clenched my jaws, trying to remain as silent as I could. Pinning me against my seat, he put the seatbelt across my chest and hands. Nikolai started the car and drove it out of the college. I watched the college go farther and farther away from me, and so did everything I was living for. "I am warning you, if you tell anything about this broken hand to father, I will make it worse." "HH." I muffled my cry as he clenched my plastered hand. "Now, sit like a good girl and no more crying. Although I love the way you look when you cry, you need to look the best tonight. A family dinner and there will be very important guests. So mother wants me to make sure you are in your best behavior." Xanthia the maids gingerly removed the plaster from my hand and wrapped it in fresh elastic bandages. I sat in front of the ornate dressing table with shut eyes. I didn't want to look at myself, not when Nikolai's unsettling gaze scorched disgustingly over every inch of my body. I wore a thin, white undergown that concealed nothing. It clung to my body, revealing far more than I was comfortable with. A sick churn bubbled up in my stomach with apprehension when he approached the dressing table, ordering the maids to leave. I clenched the gown over my knees into my fists. He placed his hand on my shoulder, the searing warmth of his palms sinking into my bare skin. I tensed up, bringing my shoulders closer to my neck when he leaned closer to my ears. "Now, wouldn't you look prettier with this piece of cloth off you, my pretty doll?" My fist trembled as he slipped the sleeve of the undergown down my shoulder. He took a sharp breath with a chuckle, distancing himself from me. "Look at you tremble, sis. What did you think I'd do? I am your half-brother. Come on. How disgusting can your thoughts get? I was just joking with you. Take these painkillers and be on your best behavior, sis." "I am not joking when I say these are important guests," he said. His hand slid over my fist. "Take these painkillers. Trust me, I am only trying to help you. It might be a long night for you." Nikolai forced open my fist and put the painkillers in my palm. "Here's your water. I know you won't be able to hold with your right hand. Let me help you drink." I stared at the pills in my palms. Shutting my eyes, I swallowed them, allowing Nikolai to help me drink the water. "Good doll," he said, running his thumb across my lips, wiping off the water. "If you were this obedient all the time, I wouldn't have to go through all the trouble you forced me through. The maids will now dress you up." He left and the maids soon entered the room when I finally looked at myself in the mirror. The bridal veil ran down from my hair all the way to the floor across the gown. The one who looked back from the reflection was a pretty bride dressed in a lavish full-sleeved, off-shoulder, revealing white wedding gown, just like a doll. I guess that's what I was always supposed to be. A doll for someone to dress up. A doll who had no mind of her own, the one who had no luxury to dream or think for herself. I was always supposed to listen to others and have no opinion of my own. That's what Omegas have always been. I lowered my gaze. I didn't even want to look at the one standing in the mirror. My stomach convoluted with foreboding and apprehension. Why was I dressed like a bride? What was going on? What exactly was going to happen to me? What did Nikolai mean when he said it would be a long night for me? The door opened, and someone entered. From the sound of heels striking the marble, I knew it was my stepmother, Luna Meesa Virgo. I held my gaze low as she took me in. She looks perfect. Bring her when I call. She talked to the maids and left. I had a powerful urge to ask her why I was wearing a wedding gown, but I knew it was better to let things unfold according to them than to question or fight them. I slumped back on the white and golden couch. My heart thumped louder with every ticking of the clock. Hours later, something happened that had never happened before. Alpha Vladimir entered my room, and I instantly sprang to my feet. It felt like blood had drained off my body as he stood near me. But at the same time, I was a little hopeful about something. I didn't know what I hoped for from him, but it was all in vain. In the 23 years of my life, this was the third time I was standing face to face with him. He was never cold to me or hostile like Luna Meesa, Natalia, and Nikolai. But he was never warm either. He was my father, but we were complete strangers. I bowed, keeping my gaze low. He contemplated me for a while before he spoke. You are getting married to the... He gritted his jaws then continued, to the triplet alphas of the Infernal Pack tonight, he said in his usual calm voice and a hint of hesitation. My breath had stalled in my chest as the meaning of his words sank in. I thought it was important that you know and understand the situation. The Alpha King has chosen our pack this year to make the offering to the demon lords. I had no choice, Thea. Natalia is too young. The fate of our pack is now in your hands. As your father, I don't want this to happen to you. Please leave. My voice trembled as I turned away from him. Tears brimmed in my eyes. Thea. Pain knotted into my chest. Suffocation tightened into my throat as I forced those words from my lips. An Alpha is offering an Omega from his pack to the demon lords to protect his pack and his people. There's nothing more to this situation, Your Highness. You could have sent your servant to relay the message like you always did. It's not like you ever considered me as your daughter, and if by any odd chance you feel guilty, then think yourself forgiven, for I never expected anything from you. The bitterness mixed with fear and pain made me speak words that I never could have dared say to him otherwise. And I instantly regretting letting my inner thoughts come to life in front of him. I don't think he was there to say a sorry. Maybe he was there to warn me or tell me to behave myself. He let out an exasperated sigh. Is there anything I can do for you? Tears trailed down my eyes. Words clogged my throat and all I could do was shake my head. I am sorry, Thea. All of this happened so suddenly since yesterday, even I don't understand how things led to this. It's Alpha King's order. So, I hope you understand the gravity of this situation. Of course, I knew what it meant to be offered to the triplets. I knew how serious the situation was. Now that I knew the reason for wearing the wedding gown, its fabric felt like molten silver on my skin. I was being offered to the triplet alphas. There were 3 pack realms in this world, the earthly pack's realm, the celestial pack realm, and then the most dreaded pack ever, the infernal pack realm. The celestial pack was known as the purest pack and was ruled by the moon goddess herself. It consisted of immortal werewolves, descendants of the angel, dragon, or god races. The earthly packs relied heavily on the blessings of the celestial pack, which was believed to be a pack hidden in the sky. The earthly pack's realm consisted of the 12 werewolf packs inhabiting mortal werewolves. The Virgo pack, my pack, was one of the earthly packs. Each pack was ruled by an alpha and the Alpha King ruled over all the 12 alphas. He was also known as the Alpha of the Alphas and he was responsible for maintaining peace with the celestial pack and the infernal pack. The infernal pack was infamously known as the pack of the underworld or hell, and it was ruled by the triplet alphas or the demon lords. The infernal pack was also inhabited by the immortal werewolves, but they were all descendants of the evil, the demons, the curses, the banished and the ones who turned rogue. No one knew why, but it started 3 years ago. Every year, the Alpha King chose an earthly pack to make an offering to the triplet alphas of the infernal pack. From what everyone believed, offering the demon lords a bride of royal blood every year was the only way to maintain peace between the earthly packs and the infernal pack. No one knows what happens to the brides in the infernal pack. But by the end of the 1 year time, all those brides from all the earthly packs were found dead in the most gruesome way and hung outside the royal palaces if the packs they belonged to. The triplet alphas took over those fallen packs, and ever since, their inhabitants live at their mercy. I gulped hard, trying to manage my breathlessness. But everything was turning dark in front of my eyes. I held my head. Nausea tore through my chest, cold fear rattling through my bones as I imagined myself meeting the same gruesome end. Until today, 3 brides have been offered to them and no bride had survived those ruthless alphas. All of them were alpha blood. I was an omega. I wouldn't survive a day. Thea. Alpha held me before I slumped to the floor. A cry escaped my lips when he held my broken hand. I instantly withdrew my hand from him. He tensed his brows. Thea, are you hurt? I restlessly looked around the floor and shook my head. He seized my hand, making me wince. He made me sit on the couch while he sat beside me. He lifted the sleeve of my broken hand. His furrow deepened when he saw the bandages wrapped around my arms. How did this happen? He asked. Nikolai's warning rang in my head and my mouth turned drier than it already was. Alpha. I heard Luna Meesa's panic-stricken voice as she stormed into the room. Catching her breath, her wide eyes fell on my hand and then at Alpha. Rage flashed in her eyes as she glared at me. Did you know she was hurt? Alpha asked, and Luna Meesa's aura instantly shifted. She's hurt? She strutted towards me. I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me you were hurt when I asked you before? What happened, Thea? Alpha turned to me. My breath sped up, tears streamed down my eyes. Luna grabbed my shoulder. I suppressed a wince. Yes, sweetie. What happened? Tell your father, how did you get hurt? Her tone was sweet to ears who didn't know the threat lurking behind that sweetness. Sniffling, I licked my dry lips and said, I fell from the stairs. Oh my. That is, I didn't like the idea of her shifting to Freya's house. She's all alone there and you know she never shares anything with us. She doesn't even consider us a family. Or else she would have told me, Luna Meesa said. There was a knock at the door and the royal doctor walked in. Luna Meesa glared at me and then at Alpha, looking as shocked as I was. Alpha got up from the couch as the doctor examined me thoroughly. He told Father about my broken hand and sprained ankles. Father. Nikolai entered the room. Is Alpha King here to take her? Father asked, facing him. Before offering the bride to the triplet alphas, the Alpha King collected the brides himself and then took her to his kingdom from where she was sent to the infernal pack. No, his stern voice hinted of fear. They are here. He panted anxiously. The demon lords are here themselves. Blood froze in my veins. Doctor and Alpha blocked Nikolai from my vision. But I wished he said he was joking even when I knew he wasn't. They sent a messenger. They'll be here by midnight, Nikolai said. Call an immediate meeting in the court, Alpha said, and Nikolai hurried out of the room. Turning towards Luna, Alpha said. Get Natalia ready for the offering. Thea can't marry the triplets in this condition. Xanthia. Luna Meesa's face lost all color. What? Alpha. He raised his hand, silencing her. We don't have time for arguments. It's an order and I expect you to follow it. With that, he left the room. Luna Meesa shot me an outraged gaze. She flounced in front of me and slapped me across my face. The stinging pain pulsed through my cheek like 1,000 needles, overwhelming my senses. Are you happy now? She snarled at me. You've finally destroyed my family. You and your filthy blooded mother. I peered blankly at the floor. A mix of emotions crashed upon me, strangling my heart with their unforgiving claws. Her grip tightened on my broken arm as I stifled my cries into mere whimpers. For the first time in my life, I felt as if I deserved the pain. The royal doctor lowered his gaze. It was nothing new for him. After all, he was the one to heal me for 18 years after every time they broke me. He never asked about my wounds. All he did was treat me, keeping his mouth shut just like today. She grabbed my cheeks with her other hand, her nails dug into my cheeks. My eyes stung with tears at the pain. I clenched my jaws to arrest the sob in my throat. Useless and burdensome, as you always were. Mother. Natalia burst into the room, breaking into tears. I don't want to marry them. I don't want to die. Mother, please do something. I had expected Natalia to unleash her anger on me, but she clung to Luna, sobbing bitterly. We shared the same fear in that moment, and maybe that was what bound us. Nothing really matters when you can see your death right on your doorstep. Especially not when death was coming to marry you and take you away to the underworld as an offering. Another agonizing hour passed, with Natalia's sobs and cries echoing the fatal silence of the palace. She was in another room, but I could hear her painful cries all the way to my room. I didn't know what the royal doctor had injected into my hand, but the pain had lessened. I gently cradled my broken hand, wanting to feel relief, but restlessness gnawed at my chest with every passing second. The air inside and around the palace was thick with a kind of fear that came with the threat of an impending tsunami. A fear of destruction with no escape. All we could do was let the tsunami pass and hope to still be alive once it had. I was left alone in the room, forgotten now that everyone's attention was on Natalia. The sound of the clock had become much more pronounced, and so did the hurried footsteps in the corridors. I rose from the bed and paced near the dressing table, fidgeting with my fingers as restlessness grew wilder in my chest. I wanted to go back home to my mother, her diaries. Maybe then I would find some courage. My head snapped up as my room door creaked open. This is what I feared the most. He is going to be mad again. He'll hurt me again. With bated breath, I looked at Nikolai, who wore a deep frown when he entered the room. But his face turned impassive as he took me in. His eyes widened in a daze as his gaze traveled down my body to my wedding gown, lingering on each detail. My heart hammered against my ribs. I didn't tell Alpha about my arm. I promise. He, sort of, found out on his own. I didn't tell him anything about you or the car thing. I spoke in a breath, well aware of what was coming regardless of my words. He wasn't going to trust me. He stepped closer and I shut my eyes, my body trembling. He is going to hit me. But he stopped. I glanced at him, confused. His gaze flickered briefly to my breasts. With a sneer he gritted his teeth and stormed out of the room without a word. I took a quick gulp. What just happened? The voices in the corridors grew louder and more rushed. So did my heartbeats. I looked at the watch. It was 10 minutes to midnight. I could no longer sit back in that room. I walked out of the room. Walking some distance in the corridor, I heard Natalia whimpers. Brother, please. Do something. Please. They'll kill me. You know them, they are devils. Natalia clutched Nikolai's hand, pleading. She was dressed in a sparkly white wedding gown, adorned in the best of diamonds. Something she always flaunted, something that no longer held value. I lowered my gaze. At least there was someone she could plead with. I would have to bear it silently. A knot formed in my chest, tightening with Natalia's cry for help. They are in the pack, you should. Prepare yourself, Leah. Stop crying. You need to look. Good for them, Nikolai said, clenching his jaws. An unfamiliar powerlessness lingered in his eyes. Natalia broke into silent sobs. She had been crying for hours now. Her eyes were red, her voice hoarse, but she kept pleading, sometimes with Luna, sometimes with Nikolai. Both of them could only listen. It's all my mistake. Natalia slumped against the wall. It's karma. That is why this is happening. It's all my fault. I broke her hand. It was my idea. I widened my eyes, feeling a strangling pain throb in my chest at her words. I am the one to blame. It's all my fault. She slumped against the door frame. As the clock struck midnight, the main clock chimed loudly. Natalia's eyes widened, tears streaming down incessantly. No, no. She ran into her room, slamming the door behind her. A sudden gravity filled the palace as the air crackled with power and dominance. The demon lords, the triplets, had arrived. Nikolai banged on her door. Leah. Open the door. Leah. Don't do this. Shit, he mumbled, punching the wall helplessly. For a moment, he remained calm, probably mind-linking with the Alpha. Then, with a forceful push, he opened the door and dragged Natalia out. She was no longer screaming. Suppressed sobs were the only sound that escaped her lips. I watched it all hiding behind the wall. Natalia's teary gaze met mine before she was dragged away, and her face kept flashing in my eyes as if it might remain imprinted in my mind forever. I pressed my hands over my mouth, breaking into tears. Leaning my head against the wall, I slumped to the floor. Holding my aching head in my hands, I cried until I could no longer fight the weight of my own conscience. With the support of the wall, I got up. Lifting the hem of my wedding gown, I ran as fast as I could with my sprained ankles in the empty corridors of the palace. Everyone had gathered in the ballroom for the marriage ceremony. Even the maids were nowhere to be seen. I ran through the web of corridors, finally stopping when I reached the back door of the ballroom. That was the place from where the bride would enter the hall. I could feel the heavy aura lurk in the air. Panting, I hesitated for a moment before finally making up my mind. I saw Alpha waiting with sobbing Natalia, hidden in the darkness. I didn't dare glimpse whatever ceremony was going on in the ballroom. The ballroom had been hastily decorated for the marriage ceremony, yet it looked gothically beautiful. Dark clouds rumbled in the sky with thunder and lightning, adding to the frenzied ambience. The crowd surrounding Natalia parted to make way for me. Luna Meesa's bleary gaze fell on me, but she didn't react with hostility as usual. I stepped closer to them. Nikolai blocked my path to Alpha and Natalia. "What are you doing here?" He spoke through gritted teeth. "Came here to enjoy our suffering?" I met his eyes, my voice unwavering. "Only you can find happiness in someone else's suffering, not me." Nikolai frowned, rage dimmed in his eyes with a glimpse of tears. Gulping down the lump in my throat, I passed by him and everyone else until I was face to face with Natalia and Alpha. I looked into Alpha's eyes. "I offer myself to the demon lords. Please let Natalia go," I said. The crowd seemed to gasp in unison. Natalia stared at me in shock. "Now enters the bride with Alpha Vladimir," a voice echoed from within the ballroom. Everyone stood frozen until Luna Meesa yanked Natalia away from Alpha. "Thea. Daughter." Alpha looked at me, his eyes unreadably warm. Raising my hand over my head, I pulled down the veil over my face. Lifting my right hand as high as I could, I placed my hand over Alpha's arm. Alpha didn't say another word. I had nothing to lose, and my death would be no one's loss. I never had a family. No one would cry at my death. I would no longer be the reason for someone's pain. If I was lucky, I might meet my mother. Maybe then I could apologize properly for disappointing her. In the end, I couldn't fulfill her dreams. The very day I had already lost everything that meant something to me. You can live with regrets, but guilt, it kills you every day you live. Mother's words flashed in my head. Natalia stumbled to me, proffering the bouquet of forget-me-nots in my hand with her trembling hands. She dropped her gaze when I looked at her through the veil as I took the bouquet from her hand. I shut my eyes and inhaled deeply as the lights fell on me. Alpha held my hand gently as we strutted down the aisle. The ballroom filled with decent claps. My gaze remained fixed on the red carpet beneath my feet. My steps faltered halfway to the altar. A dark stain crawled from the hem of my gown all the way up to the fabric on my chest and sleeves, turning the white wedding gown into a black gown. Even the veil over my face had turned black. A shudder ran down my spine as the forget-me-nots in my hands turned into a bouquet of red spider lilies. I almost dropped the bouquet, my chest heaving faster. Steeling my heart and tightening my grip around the bouquet of spider lilies, I made my way to the altar. Alpha let go of my hand at the foot of the altar. 3 figures stood on the altar. Xanthia. Squalls gushed into the ballroom, announcing the arrival of a storm. I stood near the foot of the altar as they swirled around me. A quiet gasp escaped my lips when a swift wind fluttered my veil off my face. Entangling with the free strands of hair, the winds tucked them behind my ear. My breath shivered when I realized it wasn't the touch of the air that brushed past my cheeks. Goosebumps ran all over my body as another zephyr caressed my neck. I parted my lips, letting out a silent, shaking breath. "Sweet." A whisper kissed my ear. Pressing my lips together, I gulped hard. Seconds felt like an eternity as I lifted my eyelids. Maybe those seconds were enchanted, or maybe my existence had come to a halt. But something surreal lingered in the distance between us when my eyes locked with the three demon lords. I half gasped and half gaped at the three of them. My heart pounded faster and faster as the three of them gazed back at me with their dark and cold eyes, holding the mystery of the night. The power they emitted was so overwhelming it made my existence seem insignificant. They were dressed in shades of gray and black three-piece suits that hugged their well-built and tall frames in all the right places, highlighting their chiseled features that only enhanced their otherworldly sinful charms. Their sharp jawlines and palely handsome faces drew me into a blank space, and their alluring eyes trapped me in an abyss. I could feel my fear amplifying with every heartbeat. Danger lurked in their eyes, and it appeared they had already possessed my heart, my body, and my soul. There was no escaping them, but I wasn't sure how long I would survive them. Or maybe there was no survival in this marriage at all. There was only surrendering. Surrendering my life, my fate, and my destiny to them. As long as I surrendered to the three of them, I might survive. Requesting the bride on the altar. The voice of the man, dressed in a hooded black robe from head to toe, brought me out of the triplets' bewitchment. Stalling my breaths, I gingerly walked up to the altar. It felt as if, even if I breathed the wrong way, they would break me apart. I didn't dare look at any of them again. There was no priest on the altar, but a sorcerer. In fact, there was no one anywhere close to the altar. I glanced at Alpha, who peered at the triplets, then lowered his gaze when he looked at me. My breath hitched as a shudder ran through my body when one triplet held my chin. He lifted my chin, making me look into his eyes. Up close, his light gray eyes were even more predatory. And my heart ran wild, just like a prey. An unsettling dread ran down my spine, breathing in the same air as him. His gaze dropped to my parted lips. Sucking in a quick breath, I lowered my gaze, pursing my lips. He let go of my chin and stepped back, standing in the middle of the other two. I stood in front of them, clutching my hands near my belly even tighter. We are here to witness the soul pact being formed between the infernal triplets and the earthly princess of the Virgo pack, Princess Xanthia Virgo, the sorcerer said. A wedding. I knew a wedding with the demon lords would be anything but normal. But a pact? It wasn't just my body they'd claim in this marriage. They'd imprison and imprint my soul with theirs. My nails dug into my skin as tears stung my eyes. Is this really how my life will end? A soul trapped for eternity in the shadows with no escape, no light, no salvation? Alpha Raven Zephyr, step forth and create the first soul pact with your bride, the sorcerer said. The Alpha standing left to the gray-eyed Alpha stepped closer to me until he stood right in front of me. His brown eyes contemplated me. He had long hair tied in a ponytail, his hair styled in a wolf cut. Look into my eyes, his deep voice cut through my chest. His words were impassive and colder were his scrutiny. The sorcerer walked close to us and lifted a double-ended dagger between us. I peered at the dagger that hung in the air, levitating between us. My mouth turned dry at the sight of the sharp blades. Princess Xanthia Virgo and Alpha Raven Zephyr, I will request you to stab your ring fingers at the ends of the pact dagger, the sorcerer said. The handle in the middle of the pact dagger had a huge gem that looked as if glowing blood was constantly flowing in it. I stepped back, curling my fingers into fists. Raven held my gaze, and my body stiffened. My body wasn't under my control. I involuntarily stepped closer to the pact dagger and stabbed my ring finger at one edge of the dagger while Raven stabbed his ring finger at the other end. The double-ended dagger sucked in our blood and the gem in the middle hilt glowed even more red. A sharp pain ran through my body as, for a few seconds, it felt like I was having a heart attack. I struggled to breathe. Holding back my tears, I clenched my chest. I glanced at Alpha Vladimir, pleading for help, but all he did was lower his gaze. Everyone in the ballroom stood with their heads low. My head snapped back towards Raven. It seemed as if invisible hands were controlling my body. I looked into his eyes as the sorcerer read. Do you, Xanthia Virgo, entrust your body, blood and soul to Raven Zephyr, your lord, your owner and your first husband? I bit my lower lips, letting out a mournful sob. I wanted to run away and hide somewhere far away. A grave seemed like a safer place to belong than with the triplets. I wish I had an option to die. But I chose this destiny for myself. I had to take the responsibility. I do, I said, through the pain. Do you swear your eternal loyalty, obedience, and submission to him and his will? The sorcerer asked. I do, I said, breathing heavily as a feverish sensation ran up my spine. Do you promise to accept the punishment if you breach the first 2 vows? I knit my brows as tears trailed down my cheeks. I do. My words came out as a moan. And do you, Raven Zephyr, tie your soul to hers? I do, he said, stoically. I stumbled back as I got back the control over my body, and I instantly withdrew my finger from the dagger's pointed end. Alpha Zephyr, step forth and create the second soul pact with your bride, the sorcerer said. This time, the eyes that forcefully locked with mine were deep blue. He had short, frivolously styled hair. A mischievous glint flashed in his eyes when he saw my tears. My body was under Ezra's control. I was losing control, even over my tears. I stabbed my ring finger again at one end of the dagger while Ezra stabbed his ring finger on the other end. Do you, Xanthia Virgo, entrust your body, blood and soul to Ezra Zephyr, your lord, your owner and your second husband? The sorcerer said. I accepted the same vows with him as I had with Raven. And do you, Ezra Zephyr, tie your soul to hers? I do, he said in an amused tone as he took me in. Alpha Zephyr, step forth and create the third soul pact with your bride, the sorcerer said. Ezra stood back while the gray-eyed man with ruffled shoulder-length hair. With him, my body was more under my control, and he waited for me to stab my ring finger with the dagger's end instead of forcing me to do it. Do you, Xanthia Virgo, entrust your body, blood and soul to Asher Zephyr, your lord, your owner and your third husband? The pain during the vowing process was no less excruciating, but at least I was ready for that pain now. I do. My voice was weak. And do you, Asher Zephyr, tie your soul to hers? I do, he said, holding my teary gaze. I pronounce their souls pacted. In the words of the earthly realm, I pronounce them married. The sorcerer said, and polite claps filled the ballroom. The double-edged dagger in the sorcerer's hands turned and twisted itself until it took the form of a pointed thorny crown with glowing blood adorning it as gems. Alphas, I request you to place this crown on your bride's head and seal the pact for eternity, the sorcerer said. The triplets held the crown and placed it on my head together. Its thorns and pointed ends pierced through my skin and hair. I could feel blood trail down my forehead, over my face. I shut my eyes, feeling my blood leave behind its fleeting warmth on the cold skin of my eyelids. The crown got heavier and heavier on my head. It felt like I would be buried right under its pressure. Every inch of my body was throbbing with pain like I had never felt before. It was worse than having a broken hand. My soul was tearing apart, and I could feel it in my veins. The ballroom spun before my eyes. My vision faltered, and so did my struggle to fight the pain and stand strong when I was breaking from inside. My chest heaved faster. Before my failing body hit the ground, Raven grabbed my upper arms. Ezra held my shoulder while Asher's firm arm wrapped around my waist as my back rested against his chest. You can't be weak, wife. You now have 3 husbands to please. Tonight's the night we claim you. You can't let a simple wedding tire you, for our nuptial night holds trials far more demanding, Ezra whispered huskily, tucking my hair behind my ear. My heart pounded with its leftover strength as I shook my head slightly. Please. I succumbed to the darkness before my words could find their voice. Xanthia, it's tragic how we spend most of our lives on the streets just to search for a small place we could call home. Just to return to it and feel at peace while carrying chaos in our minds. But once you find your home, you'll know, and that's what makes this journey worth taking. A caressing, hypnotic fragrance slowly enveloped my senses. It was a sophisticated blend of jasmine, patchouli, and hints of exotic spices. With every breath, the scent seemed to suffuse deeper and deeper in my body. My pulse quickened, and I could feel the heat crawl up my cheeks. A trembling breath escaped my parted lips as something soft, like a feather, gliding down my neck, sending tantalizing goosebumps all over my body. With the fragrance that dazed my mind and relaxed my body mixed 3 prominent scents that I could never mistake. They were there in the room with me. The demon lords. I could feel the silk bedsheet and the bed beneath my palms. But I couldn't open my eyes because of the blindfold. I panicked subtly from the inside, but I was too scared to show it. I gulped hard, bringing my shoulder closer to my neck as I felt a chilly breath run down my cleavage. My body responded to their vanishing touches, a tingling sensation charged along my skin. I felt a surge of energy coursing through me, a gentle desire to live and a cruel reminder that I might die the next second I upset them. I had to stay strong, and this was something I could not resist or deny even if I wanted to. All I could wish for was for it to end as soon as it could. My breath hitched as the silk blanket that had been covering my body until now slid down with every intention of tracing every inch of my skin. I could still feel a thin fabric around my body, so hopefully I wasn't naked yet. One of them tried to hold my wrist, but in an impulse I pulled it from their grip. The air crackled with their dominance and I knew I had displeased them. Maybe if I just lie down and let them do what they want with me, at least I wouldn't upset them. My heart ravaged in my chest as I held my trembling hands close to my breasts. I bit my lips. My breath ceased in my lungs as one of them grabbed my wrist and made me sit on the bed. I reached out to touch my blindfold when I felt the air around me flush with their maddening pheromones. My hands limply fell to my side. They didn't want me to take off the blindfold. But why? Not being able to see them only added to my nervousness. My whole body was burning. The fever felt as if it were breaking every bone in my body. I instantly grabbed my broken right hand to feel the pain, but there was none. Even my ankle was healed. Still, something in my body didn't feel right. It felt like I was in heat, but a heat that was 10 times stronger than all the heats I had had in my life. I squeezed my thighs together, feeling the discomfort between my legs grow. I clenched the bedsheet with one hand and the fabric over my chest with the other, panting. Fuck, that made my cock throb, little toy. My head followed the direction of the amused, deep voice that held a dark tease behind every word. That was probably Ezra. Why don't you open your pretty legs and let us know how wet you are for us? Ezra asked. This time, his voice had a rugged groan, as if he was holding himself back from doing something dangerous. You heard him. Didn't you? A stoic voice came from my left. Raven. There was a harshness in his voice. Hatred in his tone, as if I disgusted him. I hugged my knees close to my chest. Knitting my brows, I shook my head. Please. I don't know why I begged them, even when I knew it was useless. Hey. Hey. Don't fucking tell me you are a virgin, little toy. Ezra's tone lit up with a dangerous excitement. I am. My words shivered out of my dry lips. Ezra broke into laughter. Damn. The next second, I flopped on the bed, my wrist pinned over my head. My heart raced in my chest. A hand trailed up my thighs, sliding the hem of my dress to my belly. Ah. Wait. Please. I spoke through broken breaths. His firm grip on my inner thighs pulled my knees apart. My core throbbed as he grinded his hips against mine. You made us wait enough, my virgin toy. How dare you hide this dirty little pussy from us? You deserve to be punished by my cock. I thought I had prepared myself enough for this, but now that it was about to happen, I was trembling. My tears disappeared somewhere within my blindfold. My heart pulsated against my ribs as I clenched my fists. Back off, Ezra. Not now. A husky, authoritative growl came from my right. Out of all the voices, hearing Asher's voice settled down my heartbeats. And I don't know why. With a disappointed grunt, Ezra backed away from me, leaving me disheveled and open to all their gazes. I closed my legs and sat up on the bed again, burning with shame. Now I was grateful to the blindfold. At least I could see them looking at me. Heat flared deep in my abdomen. Ezra's touch was still fresh everywhere on my body. Take off your clothes, Omega, Raven commanded. I clenched my dress over my thighs. If you make me repeat, I will tear them off you and defile that lowly body of yours. This is already a waste of time, anyway, Raven said. Shivers ran down my spine at his raw threat. I knew he hated me, and deep down, I knew it was because I was an Omega. I slowly rose to my knees and slid the strings of the dress down my shoulders. I pulled the dress down over my breasts and then down my legs. Now I was completely naked to their burning gaze that I could feel on my skin. I gulped hard, trying to hide my breasts, but two hands seized my wrists at the same time and pulled them away from my body. I bit down a sob at their bruising grips. Another pair of hands gripped my ankles, pulling them apart. Two of them cupped my breasts, playing and teasing my hardened buds. My back arched as I opened my mouth, moaning as they pinched and circled my nipples between their fingers. I could feel my juices trail down my slit. I couldn't understand what was happening to me or why it felt so sinfully right. Now that it was going to happen, a dark desire took over me. You are such a fucking whore, Omega. We barely touched you and you are dripping wet already. Raven scoffed, painfully squeezing my breast. The pain rushed through my body, making me feel a hunger I never knew existed inside me. We are going to take turns with you. You'll have to tell who is eating your cunt. If your answers are right, we will fuck you like you want, and if they are wrong, we will fuck you like we want, Asher said. I hope you are ready,